Welcome back to the My Latin Life podcast. Since 2014, My Latin Life has been your trusted guide to traveling and living in Latin America. My guest today is Andy J. Starr, based in Merida, Mexico. Andy, how are you?
Hey, mucho gusto, un grand plaisir. It's a real honor being with you here, Vance. It's been a long time coming. You've had so many of my friends on the show. It's like, oh, I got to get in on this. You got like the best show going. Got like Francisco and Tebow. I think you had Nicholas Anzinger on. All these
Uh-huh.
great people, and I just so many, so many. So it's just a real big honor to be here. But yeah, I've been in Merida now on and off for the last 7 years, almost 8 years.
hmm Our episode with Thibaut Serlet, probably one of the more underrated episodes. How do you know Thibaut? I think it's a good kickoff point because you're involved in all these aspects of the, what would you call it, like special economic zones and building new countries and countries on the internet and sovereignty and all these things that we'll get into. And I think Thibaut's kind of a good kicking point on that.
Oh, he's Tebow is one of those outstanding individuals that has such an amazing grasp of history, particularly older history. I know Tebow from a woman by the name of Joyce, who lives over in Morazan in Honduras, in one of those special economic zones. The
hmm
lesser known one, Prospero and Roatan, being a little bit more of the more prominent of those ZEDIs, as they're known, those zones for employment.
Yeah.
And so she introduced me to Tebow's group on Telegram. It's a private group. And so the rest is history. I hit it off with Tebow, a few DMs here, a few chats there, and I just found him to be a bit of a kindred spirit. We have a lot of very similar stories, a lot of similar backgrounds, although my family didn't come to its situation through the exact same channels and avenues, but very similar backstory, similar interest. If I had a much younger brother, for sure it would be Tebow. Um,
Little
right.
Swiss
So,
younger brother.
oh, absolutely. Yeah. No. 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 Il y a beaucoup de similarités. We'll leave it at
Ooh.
that. Sure. Who
Are
knows?
you
There could
Canadian,
even
dude?
be. Pardon? Yeah.
Are
Go
you
ahead.
Are you Canadian?
Well, that too, among a lot of other things. Yeah, sure. As I'm sure many of your listeners, I'm not one of these passport bros, but just it's one of those things I fell into. Yeah, sure. I used to live in Notre Dame de Grace, right
Ah,
outside of Montreal. So no
NDG.
damn good. NDG.
That's
I don't
cool.
think Tebow has ever been out that way for an extended period of time. But right, so special economic zones, charter cities. He has his consultancy firm, which my understanding does exceptionally well. He's probably always high in demand, I would imagine. If he's not, that's a crime. So right, I share many of those same interest groups. Interest, I should say. Pardon me, I'm a little
Mhm.
recovering from a few things, but I don't do consulting work for that much anymore. But I've long had that interest. I do have a new group on Telegram, Country Founders, for those
Mhm.
that have an interest in building up brand new countries. Right, so there was the whole network state phenomenon that emerged and has been popularized by the ex CTO of Coinbase, Balaji, and he put out thenetworkstate.com,
Mhm.
his book about organizing communities that would seek to perhaps someday gain some moniker of sovereignty and land and things of that nature. And as it turns out, I've been working on this for a long time, well before there was a before any of us had heard of Coinbase or Bitcoin or Balaji or any of it. So certainly running into someone like a Tebow would be was amazing for me, because when you meet people like him, you realize you're not the only one, right? You're not so alone. That's what I love about what you do, Vance, so much, is that it's like, wow, I'm not alone. There are other people that are out there hanging out in Latin America, building lives, doing great things. So that's like the genius of what you do. It's the genius of what Tebow and many, if not all, of your guests uh, are up to. And so, no, as somebody that has a 20-year background in real estate, for me, it's almost natural to want to be involved with these types of development efforts.
Mhm.
Oh,
So
yeah,
this is one thing I wanted to get to the bottom
certainly.
of in this episode, which is what it is exactly that you do. Because I know you know a lot of things, and you've put
Yeah.
together this Telegram group with an all-star lineup of people involved in this idea of founding new countries, thinking about new ways of developing special economic zones, and kind of international sovereignty. It is a private group, so we're not you know necessarily promoting that in terms of like having everybody join, because it is kind of people with a purpose for being there. But the fact that you put this group together really made me think like, okay, like I want to like peel back the layers of this Andy guy a little bit and like see what he's really involved with, see what he's about.
Yeah, I mean it's only been a month that the Country Founders Group has been operational. I think we have about 240 people in there now. No deleted accounts, no spam, no bots. More than 7,000 messages in a month. I mean, I have other groups like my Merida Mexico group, which is the
Mm-hmm.
Merida Freedom Group that
Mm-hmm.
came about in the wake of the COVID situation or whatever folks want to call that. And that only has 11,000 messages, and that's more than a year old group. So you're right. There's been a tremendous amount of interest in the concept of building new countries. And it's just, I've built up this network over the years, and I figured, well, let me just come up with my own discussion group, a discussion group that is geared more toward those that are seeking what I call the gold standard, right? Fuller autonomy, not people that are interested in the silver standard of, well, I'll just have a special economic zone or a charter city or a free city or a free private city or whatever the designation is, because it's like this. I've known some Olympians, right? And they train for the gold. They don't train for silver. They don't train for bronze. I've known a lot of people in let's call it the music world, right? My father has quite an extensive background in show business. That's where I do differ from Tebow. He has his father does something else, arguably much more important. So the thing is, rock stars, right? They go for the gold. I know. I don't think the recording industry hands out designations that way anymore. Right? We're living in a Spotify, Pandora kind of world. The thing is, though, you want to aim for the most. And that's what it was. And I felt beneath the surface of a lot of these Web 3.0 guys, the crypto guys, the Bitcoin bros, the passport bros, that if you scratch the surface, it's that fantasy of, man, I want my own island where I can just be free. I'm not going to hurt anybody. I
Mm-hmm.
don't want anyone hurting me. Just live life, a good life, and that's what it's tantamount to. Um, so I guess, right, if I were to psychoanalyze myself a little bit, because I want to try to really answer your question a little bit better. I guess when I was real little, so I had open heart surgery. I wasn't the most athletic kid, if you want to say. So I poured over reference books like the World Almanac, and I'd look up different countries and things of that nature. Well, why is Belgium so much wealthier than Burkina Faso? It just didn't really make sense to, I guess, a 6, 7, 8 year old. So I tried to figure these things out. Both had colonial heritage, right? Belgium was once ruled by the Spanish Empire until the Spanish Netherlands achieved independence. I think it was around 1830 or so. Burkina Faso, of course, was part of the French West Africa Empire. So you
Mm-hmm.
just start to reason these things out on a real primitive level when you're young, and you start to figure out, well, maybe it has to do with this management or governance or organization or fiscal policy, things of that nature. And so it became a bit of an obsession of mine. So, yes, I've been into this for a whole long time. Some of that was also spurred by uh, my collection of stamps and coins, which I guess people don't really use coins or stamps that much anymore. And so I'd look up all these different factoids, and the rest is, for the most part, history. And it's just so wild now that you can say these things out openly, and you're not a freak, you're not a weirdo. It's a perfectly normal, healthy thing. It's been casualized, it's been normalized. So that's why I figured, oh, the heck with it. Let me put together this group, see where it goes. Not trying to sell anything. Anyone that's normal is welcome to join Country Founders,
Mhm.
and uh, and that's what it's about. It's for those that want to explore these subjects at any level, whether you're a veteran that's been at this a whole long time or someone that's brand new to all of this stuff.
Mhm. So, what do you think is the goal with Country Founders? And I guess more than just the Telegram group, the idea of networking with all these people and all these people with their own projects regarding network states. And I'm looking for a cute word to encapsulate everything. It's kind of hard, but like but basically all these country founders networking with all of them, bringing them all together. What's the idea there?
The idea there is many want a deal. They want a deal. They would like to find a way, a better way of living, a better way of achieving self government, a better way of achieving independence. Some are motivated by altruism. There are those that want to create states for refugees. I mean, this harkens back to the old bit nation for those that may be familiar with that. Others are more motivated by money. There are different motivations for this. It's not just an exercise in intellectual fapping, for lack of better words. No, it's also it's also about sharing ideas. It's an intellectual sandbox of sorts, and
Mm,
I suspect that there may very well be those that are successful, that are there, or that will join at some point. What will become of it beyond just a place to talk shop, beyond just a place to share ideas, network, let your hair down? It's to be seen. There is talk about creating some sort of a launch pad, right? So, in the startup world, many different groups have startup incubators, so to speak. And so, one idea that has been circulating, that has been rolling around, is to, in essence, create a sort of incubator for these types of network states, whether they are online virtual states, right? Network states,
hmm
or whether they're trying to take off to the high seas, international waters, or whether they're even trying to negotiate with existing members of the United Nations to secure land, for example.
hmm
So there are lots of different ways of skinning the cat, so to speak, to use a not so nice analogy, I suppose. Skinning a cat is not a really good idea, but
hmm
yeah, so that's what it's about. It's about taking all of this to the next level, right? A lot of folks are not satisfied being Canadian. They're not satisfied being German. There are those that are questioning how great it is to be Israeli, for example. There are people that don't want to be South African. So, right, there are citizenship by investment programs, there's residency programs, stuff that I'm sure uh, you're extraordinarily well steeped in. And I would imagine many of the listeners are avidly researching things of that nature. But a lot of times it's not, there is no one place that seems to check off all the boxes. Of course, not advocating necessarily a utopia. You're going to mix and match and do things that better suit your own individual desires. It's just that, what if there was a better place? You know, one of the big things in country founders and other circles that I
hmm
run in is, well, there's just not a lot of affordable housing that's quality. I mean, of course, in Latin America, you can still get a deal, thank goodness. Thank goodness you can. Eastern Europe, you most certainly can, although I don't think Eastern Europe really exists anymore, right? You go to Poland, oh no, we're in Northern Europe. You go to Serbia, oh, we're in Southern Europe or Southeast Europe. So really, Eastern Europe doesn't seem to exist anymore. But still, you could get a few bargains in Eastern Europe and in Latin America to this day. But one of the principal impetuses that I see is affordable housing opportunities. Where's the next frontier? Where's the next place where you can be a pioneer? And so I think a lot of what I'm seeing in country founders is just that. It's people that are searching for that next frontier. And, okay, it's great that Elon is dreaming about Mars. That's beautiful. I know a lot of people that are looking to live forever, the longevity bros, and that's cool. And they're out there in Vitalia and Prospera on the island of Roatan in Honduras, and I wish them all the luck in the world. May they succeed. My what I'm saying is, well, there's other frontiers too. There's other places on this planet as well. So there's that, and apparently I'm not the only one. But I don't want to filibuster too much.
Hey guys, quick break from the podcast to tell you about job stacking. If you're a remote or hybrid worker looking to maximize your earning potential, then Rolf Haltze, author of Job Stacking, guarantees you'll be able to double your income by implementing his paycheck multiplication layering method. This is the exact system Rolf has used to take his own income and those of many others beyond 20K a month. With this method, Rolf contractually guarantees that you'll be able to double your income in 45 days. So, if you're interested in unleashing your earning potential and doubling your income, then click the link in the description and book a call with Rolf right now. And tell me about the Merida group that you created. Why did you decide to create that group, and why did you choose Merida for yourself to base up?
Yeah, that's a great story. That's going to be really fun. To be 100% fair, I did not start the Merida Freedom Group. It was a gentleman by the name of Mark who had been living in Merida, right, I think right before the pandemic, whatever you want to call it, broke out, and he hooked up with a gentleman by the name of Derek Brose, I believe, and who was setting up different freedom cells throughout Mexico. And so he volunteered to set one up in Merida. And so I was just searching for freedom minded people, libertarians, anarcho capitalists, voluntarists, folks that are just not down with collectivism, socialism, all of that stuff, fascism, forget that. So I found this Merida Freedom Group. It had a few people in it. Mark had left for Puerto Vallarta to live with his grandmother. And so what had happened was he turned the group over to me. He transferred ownership and I built it up. And what I started to notice is I all these folks from Canada and from Western Europe, the UK, were just pouring into Mexico because there was no PCR test required to enter Mexico. And they were looking for camaraderie. They were looking for speakeasies. They were looking for restaurants that were still open. They were so happy to just be among people without having to wear the face nappy, the mask. They were so happy to just, I don't know, eat a pizza, drink a beer, talk, laugh, come out of their apartments and
Definitely.
houses and villas and just commune, if you will, with one another. And so I had been traveling to Mexico and I had been living and staying in Merida long before all of this. In 2017, it was a much quieter, less expensive place. I think we were getting what, 20, 22 pesos to the dollar back then. It was pretty wild, not bad. And on top of it, we didn't have all that crazy inflation. So It was an extraordinarily affordable place. So what brought me to Merida was an old business partner of mine and I were simply looking for a place to winter. It was as simple as that.
Yeah.
We were looking for a real affordable place that was not far from the United States and Canada, that was not far from Cancun and its international airports, so we could get out to Europe when needed. And just fell in love with Merida. It was real. It was really that simple. The pastel colored uh, houses, the affordability at that time. It's become a much more expensive place, but it's still still relatively affordable depending on where you're coming from, I suppose. It is brutally hot, right? Brutally hot, brutally humid. It's the concrete jungle. Of course, you do have the I say the beaches are 40 minutes away. Most folks will say it's 20 minutes away if you're in the north of the city. It's really about 40. There's a lot of traffic. So and it became home. It became home. I love it. It's a real comfortable place. A lot of great expat vibe scene. Um, Nice people, friendly people. It's not overrun. It's a little bit more Mexicana than a lot of the places you're going to find on the Caribbean, although it is distinctly Yucateco. So yeah, and the rest has been history. I just didn't think that I would be seeing so many people from Manitoba, so many people from Minnesota that would become my neighbors. It was just a wild thing. I was enjoying the sleepier side of Merida, and it still has that reputation. You see that a lot on Twitter. You see guys like Andrew Henderson saying, "Yes, I love Merida, but it's a little bit boring, a little bit sleepy." It does have that reputation. I don't mind that, and I don't mind it being one of the safer cities in the Americas, even though, yes, I understand the local authorities do massage statistics to make it that way. But it is really safe. You'll see girls walking up and down the Paseo
Hmm.
midnight, 1 o'clock in the morning, high
Hmm.
heels, dressed to the nines even, and there's no catcalling. It's terrific. Not a lot of places in the USSA or Kazakhstan where you can say the same.
USSA.
I'm sorry. Oh wait. Oh, that's right. We're recording this. No,
It's
it's
funny.
cool. No, you know what it is. When I get into Merida mode, it's just I'm talking with the group that there, and we let our hair down. We just say whatever it is. You'll hear things like Justin Castro and all that good stuff. Uh, hey, whether it's true or not, I don't know. I don't even weigh into that. I just believe let people feel comfortable and good with each other. And it's a terrific community, folks that are looking to do Latin America on training wheels or bumper lanes, right? Merida is one of those places. You're not going to get hurt there. You're just not. Maybe you're going to pay a little bit too much for things. Maybe it's not going to be the most authentic Latin America or Mexico experience. I will concede those points. But it's really Latin America on training wheels. It's just you go there, you buy a ticket, and just have fun. I mean, look, if I had daughters, I would have no problem with them heading out to Merida, hanging out by themselves, not going to lose a wink of sleep. Cancun, yeah. PDC, yeah. Tulum, definitely. Merida, nah, nah, not a chance. Um, so there is that advantage for those that have those types of considerations.
Hmm.
Yeah, so there's that. It's tremendous, tremendous. But yeah, that's
Do you
really
find that
the
there's a
Merida story.
Do you
I'm
find that
sorry.
there's
Go ahead, please.
a good community in Merida? Like, is there a lot of expats, digital nomads,
Oh yeah.
people, builders, creators?
Right. So it's not as entrepreneurial as I would like. It is becoming a little bit more Bitcoin friendly. There are some Bitcoin people that are moving there. There is no Bitcoin ATM machine yet. I should probably do it. I don't know why I haven't. I do know why. I've just been sidetracked really with other things. Um, right. So the expats, you're going to get a lot of older retirees, primarily Canada and USA. You're going to have some Western European folks. You're also going to have, yeah, you're going to have digital nomads. The Wi-Fi speeds are okay. They're getting better. They're not so great on the beach, although it is getting better. There is now Starlink. Thank you, Elon. So there is that to contend with. There is free municipal Wi-Fi at many of the area parks. So you go to Park Santa Lucia, Santa Ana, you're going to have free Wi-Fi. Sometimes you can stream, sometimes not so easily. Certainly, if you're monkeying around with a VPN or Tor and you're using free municipal Wi-Fi, it can
Hmm.
become real slow, but it is available even up and down the Paseo for the most part. You're going to find free Wi Fi. Usually, you're better off just going to OXO, right, and picking up a, I don't know, a Telcel card, and you're going to get your data plan on your Telcel for what? What are the piquettes? 150, 200 pesos. It'll last you almost a month, and yeah, it's not so bad as long as you're not streaming away all day. You're not going to run out on that. Certainly, unlimited talk and text is pretty good. What's really neat though is when you go into the U.S. or Canada on your Telcels. I'm sure you and many of your listeners know, it becomes T-Mobile like in the States, which is really funny because the same T-Mobile plan is substantially more. So it's kind of funny that you can get the same type of T-Mobile service in the states through your Telcel when you cross the
Hmm.
border. Some people report having issues with that. I've never had those types of situations, but right, no, the expat community is pretty good. So you have there's a big group that meets Thursdays, typically at a place called Tropico 56. A woman by the name of Kate from the UK organizes that. People are free to drop by. It's real easy to find. Heck, my Merida Freedom Group, we do outings, we do group events, we do meetups at bars, restaurants, all sorts of things. Lots of people have different groups in town. Some people go to the Merida English Library. They're a little bit more left wing. They were a little bit more in favor of the mask. So folks may want to understand that before venturing out there. But yeah, there's lots of expat groups and organizations in Merida. Primarily, you're going to find the bigger groups in Centro, right? That's a real typical thing.
Hmm.
Increasingly, you're finding a lot more expats are moving to the north of the city because they want the bigger houses, the swimming pools. They don't really care as much for all that beautiful, charming colonial architecture that I happen to love. For me, like I've owned plenty of property in Florida, so I don't want another Florida lifestyle in the north of Mexico. I'm perfect, north of Merida, pardon. I'm perfectly content with the classical, colonial esque type architecture, even though a lot of that stuff is a little bit after the colonial era. Some of it's much older, but a lot of the stuff in the Santa Ana neighborhood where I spent a lot of time
Hmm.
is a little bit younger. But yeah, you're gonna get people that hang out in Merida for a few weeks at a stretch and then they bounce. But there is still a core remnant, a core group of people that you're going to run
Yeah.
into time after
And it
time
makes me
in
think
all
like how
on all
many
the
people
seasons.
are there just in the winter versus year round? Because obviously it's like
Yeah,
scorching hot in the summer. Do you stay year round yourself?
I do travel a bit, and that's a fantastic question. Right. So the situation is, oddly enough, it's better in the summer. It doesn't get hotter in the summer. That's just it. The worst months are the ones of April, May. But by June and July, it's about as hot as it's going to get. It's not going to get any worse. So, a little
Hmm.
pro tip, a little contrarian thinking is you go to Merida in July and August, right before the big season kicks off in September. That's when the deals are. That's when it's even quieter. That's it when you're in masterminding mode and when you're living
Hmm.
more like a monk and you don't want to be so bothered. You can get those great killer deals and you can just live a lot better. It's not okay, it's going to be 110 degrees Fahrenheit, but it's 110 degrees Fahrenheit in May. So I mean, it's just like, okay, so you may as well take that into consideration. It is challenging walking around town in the middle of the day. You just don't want to do that. You just don't want to be doing that at all. Early in the morning, maybe 5, 6 o'clock in the evening. But if you're out there 2, 3 o'clock in the afternoon bumming around, you're going to get hurt. You're going to get hurt real bad. I don't even care if you're have a darker complexion. It's painful. So okay, right. But to further answer you, because I know I'm a little bit all over the map here, I would say it's 75% hit in the summer, meaning population wise of expats. I would say that a lot of folks, what they do what you could imagine. Where do they go? They go to Europe, right? They're in Italy, they're in Greece, they're in Spain. So that's very classic. You'll see that probably probably the beginning of May, maybe even the end of April at the earliest. You'll see the great digital nomad migration and trail back to the Mediterranean to pregame for the summer season out there. Uh, I've done that. I like a little bit more of the contrarian traveling. I'm not really a big fan of the big crowds, the big expenses. I don't mind the Mediterranean in autumn. I love it. I love Malta in October and November. I mean,
You
heck, I've
spend time
lived
in
in
Malta,
Malta.
right? Yeah.
Oh yeah. Oh, yeah. I've spent years on the Big Island and the sister island of Gozo. I even used to do real estate and Airbnb out there. Heck, I was there before it got to be such a popular place. The first time I poked my head there was 2013, and right before I hit Mexico, and it was fantastic. Just to be able to get what they call maisonettes on the water, 300 euros a month, no joke, no
Hmm.
joke. Today, forget it. That'd be per week, if you can even get it. So yeah, no, Maltagozo's a splendid place in the autumn months. Autumn, winter, okay. The thing about winter in the Mediterranean is, again, as I'm sure you and your listeners know, is it can be cold, it can be wet, it can be rainy. You got to really watch it.
Hmm.
I remember I did a whole January in the Greek island of Crete, and it was challenging. Yeah, sure, it clears up, it gets to be beautiful, but I tell you, it can be tough. It can be tough. There's a reason why you're getting those fantastic deals, those wonderful off-season deals. It's not an accident. So there is that to consider. But yeah, Mediterranean in fall is great. Merida in fall is great. But Merida in summer is fantastic. Spring is tough. Spring is tough. It's hot. A lot of rain, usually around 4 o'clock in the afternoon. For whatever reason, 4 o'clock in
Hmm.
Merida, it rains for about an hour to an hour and a half, 2 hours. You can almost time it. So, which is convenient, right? So, if you
Hmm.
got stuff to do, you can do it before, you could do it after, in case you don't want to get caught in the rain. So, on that level, it's predictable. Mm-hmm.
Hey guys, quick break from the episode to tell you about BitRefill. BitRefill allows you to shop online and in person without banks, converting your crypto directly into merchant balance. We're talking gift cards to Nike, Amazon, Apple, Airbnb, Hotels.com, and many more, all paid for with crypto. BitRefill offers more than 10,000 gift card options in 180 countries all across Latin America, including Brazil, Colombia, Mexico, Argentina, El Salvador, and many more. You can also apply the code MyLatinLife at checkout to get 10% back on your first purchase. Go to bitrefill.com for more information. Yeah. So let me ask you a couple things. So you do have a presence on Twitter. And you have a couple stars there, or a couple flags rather. And I wanted to see how kind of and Monaco and Malta fit into this. So you have the flags of Mexico, Palau, Malta, and what I think is Poland, or is that Monaco?
Not Poland. No,
That's
I would
Monaco.
qualify for a Polish passport, but I've never applied.
What flag is that?
Monaco. Oh, right, that is definitely Monaco.
That's
Yeah, it's
Monaco.
not
Okay, I don't know the Mon.
Indonesia.
It's just the red and white. Okay, yeah, yeah. Okay.
Yeah, no, they
So
have a real basic one. I've spent a lot of time there. I have family connections to the principality. I have a little business there. Nothing substantial. I don't want to. I don't want to blow it up out of proportion. It sounds a lot better than it is. I do have that as my right one of my websites, my personal homepage, Starr.mc. MC is Monaco. I'm not a McDonald's guy. MC is Monaco. It's
yeah,
not
that's pretty
Mickey
cool.
D's.
That's your website.
Yeah,
Is
yeah.
your
You can only
website and
get
your
that if you have.
brand is sort of registered in Monaco?
Exactly right. Exactly right. I own a trademark there. I trademarked my last name, Star, which also did help me to get the domain name. You can't just get a Monaco domain name willy nilly. You have to either have a trademark there or a business enterprise there or both. It's heavily regulated. It's a big thing. Did I do it for the status of it? No, I didn't even do it for the status of it. I did it because I do have a family connection there, because I do spend time there. I do have other things going on in the principality.
Hmm.
So that's why I did it. And it's just more distinctive. It's easy to rattle off. I couldn't get the .com. It's a popular surname, Star.
Makes
So
sense.
yeah, I mean that's really what it was. I couldn't even get .fr for France or .ch for Switzerland. So I was like, well, gee whiz, I don't. What else do I have a connection to? I should probably have done MX for Mexico, but I just didn't think of it at the time. So instead, I made my life miserable and jumped through a bunch of hoops to get Starr STARR.mc. All I do is I list a bunch of different Telegram groups there and
Hmm.
different writings that I've done and things of that nature. It's not even really a commercial site. I don't have an active commercial site at this time. I make my money in real estate and Bitcoin, and I've been in real estate for 20 years, Bitcoin for 10 years. So I'm able to self finance, which is a really cool thing. It's tough doing real estate remotely, though, as a lot of
Uh-huh.
people in the Airbnb world are finding out. I got so many people, they say, oh, Andy, I thought it would be so easy to buy these condos and put it on Airbnb, and now I can't travel to Bali. What do I do? Well, I mean, I got a lot to say about that. But anyway, I'm sorry to answer your other questions. Right. So, Palau, the reason the Palau flag is on my Twitter is because I'm a supporter of the Palau digital residency program.
Hmm.
I know that you had, I think, Jay Anson on the program who
Yep.
works on that, right? The Palau
Yeah, we
program.
were like the
What
first
what a
person to
gentleman!
ever interview him, I think.
Really,
Yeah.
that's amazing. Wow. Wow, wow, wow. That is so cool. Jay's awesome. I love Jay. He's a great guy. He is such a straight shooter. He's so honest. He's so thoughtful. And he works directly for their Ministry of Finance in the Republic of Palau. And they are chugging along with the digital residency program where they send you a physical ID, photo ID
Hmm.
in the mail. You don't have to visit an embassy or consulate, and you get this card in the mail. You can use it for anything that requires showing a government issued photo ID, as Jay would say. And they're going to be rolling out a lot of other features. They're going to be rolling out a mailing service. That's something they're going to be doing, which will be really helpful for digital nomads. They've rolled out they've rolled out a feature where you can extend your visa-free travel to the country of Palau. So if you're Canadian, I think normally you could only stay 90 days. If you become a digital resident, which it costs about $248 US, I believe, what happens is you can extend that twice for a total of 270 visa-free days. So that's not a bad thing, and it gives you some discounts in the country of Palau. and I've been a real big supporter of theirs. I'm not on their team. I don't work for the government of Palau. I have received no money from them whatsoever. It's nothing that interests me per se. And so what happened was I noticed they have a real big presence on Discord. I'm not really a big Discord kind of guy. I'm more of a Telegram fella. So I said, hey, wait a minute. Let me just set up a group for fellow digital residents of Palau. And that's what I did. An unofficial, unauthorized group. We got close to 400 people in there. And it's a lot of fun. It's a lot of fun. Palau's going to be looking to do other things that folks might find fun also. They're looking to do a corporations registrar, so you'll be able to register Palau corporations, and
Mm.
it's looking to come in at either a territorial tax regime or quite possibly the magic number that we all love, and that's 0% tax for Palau corporations. Not sure about that. I don't. Again, I'm not their spokesperson. I don't know how that's going to work, but they are looking to emulate some of the success that their neighbor or their sister country, the Republic of the Marshall Islands, has done with their corporations registry. A lot of guys in the Web 3.0 world, they like the Marshall Islands because the
Oh,
Marshall
really?
Islands lets them do the DAOs, right? Decentralized autonomous
Mm.
organizations. So we'll see if Palau is able to do the same thing. They're working on it. I believe they have the legislative framework in place, or they're going to be passing it. Not 100% sure. But anyway, right. So I spent a lot of time in Mexico. That's why the Mexico flag's on my Twitter. Palau, big supporter of what they're doing. It's kind of funny. So you go back to country founders, all these guys, myself included, are, oh, yeah, we want to set up our own countries and all this other great stuff. But here you have Palau, which is a real country, right? Full member of the United Nations, independent, and they're trying to set up a digital version of themselves, similar to what Estonia did with their e-residency program
Mhm.
a number of years ago. I was one of the first people to sign up for that at Ottawa, at the Estonian embassy in Ottawa. That was a lot of fun. I didn't
Wow.
really do a heck of a lot with it, but so Palau's trying to do that, but only better. Um, I have, of course, the business connections to Monaco. That explains that flag. Let's see. Is there any other flag on there? I should know this. Am I missing
Well,
something,
you
or is
got
that?
you got 4 flags in the bio, but it sounds like you got more than that in real life.
I probably do. Yeah, I know. I definitely do. What am I talking about? You know what it is. Just sometimes you lose track of the things you, because there are things at the forefront of the mind and things in the back of the mind. But and yeah, as one would imagine, there are certainly people in Monaco that are very interested in expansion and building out their principality. There's a new development near well, I guess near the southern part of the Principality, Marterra, where they are reclaiming even more land. So, look, there are a lot of really interesting people in the Principality of Monaco that are certainly looking at more land and expanding a lot of the good stuff that they do there. Monaco is not a low tax place, by the way. A lot of folks think that it's a free-wheeling paradise. It's not. There is a tax on corporation. They do have a VAT. It's incredibly hard to open up a business there. It's not like going into the Seychelles or Nevis or something, and where they still have a lot of KYC in those places too. But Monaco is challenging. It takes at least 6 to 9 months minimum to open up a business there. The princely government has to approve just about everything you do because certain industries in Monaco are reserved solely for citizens of Monaco. I am not one of those. I do know some. I am related to some, but yeah, they get first dibs on certain industries. It is not this. I know I'm not trying to throw them under the bus. God forbid. I don't want to have any problems, but it's just that they they take care of their own. They take care of their own first and foremost. That is for sure. There is no personal income tax. That doesn't help Americans, and that also doesn't help the French because there is an accord between Paris and Monaco. So if you are a citizen of France, it does you not a lick of good from a tax perspective to become a resident of Monaco. It
Right.
does nothing for you. It's a little bit better if you're Italian, potentially, depending on how you do things. It's just, it's not like Latin America, man. Latin America is king. One of the beauties, and I was thinking about this before I came on the show. I think one of the major attractions of Latin America is that you have so many of these countries that came of age in the 19th century, right? The 1800s. And so these are those classical 19th century style republics for the most part. And that's why they have their different rules, right? I think you tweeted out this thing about the Mexican regularization program, which is,
Yep.
it's a miracle they're still doing
I
it.
know.
I don't know if anyone listening to this and they're not contacting you, Vance, and they're not blowing up your phone right now to get in on that, they're nuts. There's no offense. You're not paying me to say this. This is just my own knee jerk, reaction. So why do I bring this up? Because not only is it a great program, but it's the kind of thing you're going to find in these types of countries that emerged in the 1800s that have this kind of we're gonna do things our way type mentality, which you do see in the Americas, which I do like, and in Mexico, right? Every little immigration office, they interpret the rules differently. They have their own little fiefdom. They have, some offices are good, some offices are not good. Some Mexican consulates abroad are good, some are not good. They don't all talk with each other. They all interpret policies wildly different from each other. So it's really important to get yourself a good facilitator. Um, my advice, and I'm not one of these people that does stupid disclaimers like, well, this isn't legal advice. No, this is legal advice. Don't bother with a lawyer in Mexico if you're trying to immigrate. Get a good facilitator. Get a good facilitator. If you want a lawyer, do it. Fine, knock yourself out. But get a facilitator. That's all you need is a good facilitator. If you're not going to do it yourself, which
Hmm.
you're more than welcome to do, I know people that have done it. I know an Australian woman that was able to do it. But get yourself a good facilitator. Go through people that you know and love and trust that feed you good information, that steer you in the right direction. You're going to sleep like a baby, like an angel. That's definitely my recommendation. Lawyers in Mexico don't make sense to me, right? You want to buy property. You're going through a lawyer? No, you're going through a notario. What are you talking about? I mean, it's just, I don't understand this. I can't
Yeah.
tell you how many DMs I get. Do you know a good lawyer, Andy? Do you know a good lawyer? Yeah, I know tons of good lawyers in Mexico, tons of them, but I wouldn't hire any of them. I'll have a beer with them. I'll help pay for their daughter's quinceanera just because it's what I do. It's not a problem to me. I love respecting people's families, but I ain't going to give them my business. No, because they're not needed. They're needed for other things for sure, but not for immigration purposes for the most part. And unless you're having a problem, a real serious problem, and certainly not for buying. If you want to buy I don't know, a beachfront lot in, gosh, I don't know, Progresso. Yeah, you don't really need a lawyer for that. You can have one, but you don't need one. Anyway, I really should
Yeah.
should stop. But yeah, I mean, what do you think, Vance? Am I totally off my rockers?
This episode of the My Latin Life podcast is brought to you in part by Job Stacking. Introducing Rolf Haltza's Paycheck Multiplication Layering Method, a revolutionary approach that redefines the traditional career path. This is Rolf's new Done With You program where he'll work with you to implement job stacking for yourself. With this method, Rolf contractually guarantees that you'll be able to double your income in 45 days. So, are you ready to step out of the shadows of job insecurity and step into a world of career abundance? Then just click the link in the description of this episode, Book a call with Rolf and start walking the path of unleashing your earning potential with job stacking. I I like the word facilitator. It sounds sophisticated.
Pardon?
I think using a service is well worth the money. Like
Yeah.
we're really not
Thank you.
charging a lot of money for these services, and it
I bet you're
saves so
not.
much time
Yeah.
and headache and having like to do all this research. Um, Sometimes we call them fixers. That's like the old school word, but I think facilitator
Fixer,
sounds more.
sorry.
So
Right.
facilitator sounds better. It sounds more sophisticated. So I might start using that. Might take that from you.
Yeah,
Yeah.
facilitators, fixers, because like fixers, you kind of get guys that fix matches like the World Series or something, right? It kind of conjures that up a little bit. You do have that in Mexico. Hell, I've met fixers. I won't say these stories because this is being recorded, but just wild ideas. This is before the regularization program, right? Like in basically like inventing family members that just don't exist, that never existed. Stay away from those folks, kids, please. Speaking of which, that's another thing that crossed my mind, and
Hmm.
I'm maybe this has come up in previous guests or Twitter, and that is, the advice that one would give an 18-year-old version of yourself, or an 18-year-old, 19-year-old, 20-year-old that's
Uh-huh.
listening to any of this stuff. And I guess just to, I mean, what would I don't want to interview you because that's sort of a rude thing to do. This is your show. But what would you say to an 18, 19-year old sitting there in Ontario or Ohio that's listening to any of this stuff and that's thinking, man, I don't know. I want to do something with my life a little bit different. I mean, I have an answer, but I'm just curious. What would you say, Vance?
Yeah. Um, I think for Americans, joining the Peace Corps could actually be cool. It is pretty cool, the Peace Corps. Only problem with that is you're not making money online, but you are getting that international experience, and it's something you'll be able to talk about the rest of your life. So I think the Peace Corps is definitely better than just going to university and getting in debt. But really, the answer and the thing that we tweet relatively often is just skip college and learn skills so that you can work online. I would say once you hit a couple of consistent months of even like 2-3 thousand bucks US, like you're ready to move abroad. So
Yeah.
if you can make, if you can chill at the parents' house and make 2-3 thousand bucks online for, let's just say, 3 consecutive months, um, fair to say you'll be able to continue replicating that and just go hit the world, go adventure, and go start doing cool stuff. Just, but the main thing is making money online.
Yes. I agree. I love it. I love it. I really do. I think that's the way. Um, I also feel that there, not to get anybody to do anything they shouldn't do, but there's a part of me that also says, you know what? There's no shame in just buying a ticket and checking it out. Come to Merida. You're not going to get hurt. There are lots of other places that are super safe in Latin
Hmm.
America where you're not going to get hurt. You're not going to lose your shirt unless you do something really dumb. Uh, there's a part of me that almost wants to say, hey, if you're an 18-year-old and you're sitting in class, rotting away, cold,
Running away.
it's all
And
right,
they all feel like that. They
cold,
all feel like
miserable.
what they're learning is basically a scam. It's not useful. They feel like they're
Right.
just getting babysat,
Yep.
and it's totally true. And they can
It
just
is.
skip that whole process.
Yep.
I think a certain amount of box checking is okay. Like, maybe get
Yes.
your high school diploma and like check a
Sure.
couple basic boxes. But beyond that, I mean, I put up a tweet yesterday. It was a reel actually from a Latino comedian who went to Canada to study or on foreign exchange or something. And he said that parties in Canada were basically like funerals. And it's true. So, if you want to spend your 18 to 22 years partying and you don't want to miss that sort of quote unquote college experience, I can tell you the parties are going to be a lot better in Latin America.
Oh gosh, yeah. Gosh, yeah. I mean, even just family get-togethers in Latin America are going to smoke the coolest, trendiest parties. Seriously, you just go into your girlfriend, your fiance's, parents' house is going to be infinitely more exciting, better food. It's just going to be so much better, and they'll be partying till 4 or 5 in the morning anyway. That's just going to happen, unless they're not really from there and they're
Mhm.
just imposters. No, I'm kidding. Look, I'm half tempted to just say, look, if you're flipping hamburgers, if you're out there in a miserable situation, and you have that gumption to just get up, I would just say get up right now. Book the cheapest ticket you can. Get the cheapest laptop you can if that's your thing. Get get things that are not too flashy, right? Heck, it's better to come out with cash of your own. But even if you got to borrow or beg, not that I advocate doing either, it's almost worth it. It's a very
It is.
personal
You got to
thing.
see the light.
Uh,
We actually recommend people of all ages do an
yeah.
exploratory trip before
Okay.
burning the boats, and because it can seem like overwhelming to be like, okay, I'm gonna ditch my lease, I'm gonna sell my car, I'm gonna get a expect to be in, let's just say, Colombia for 3 months. That can seem overwhelming. And so what we say is like, why not just do an exploratory trip, do like 7 days, 10 days, um, check a couple cities and just get the feel for it. And at least that way it feels less like the unknown. But Andy, I wanted to actually put the question to you as well. Like, what advice would you have
Yes, sir.
to someone in their at 18 or in their early 20s?
Just do it. You know what? Just do it. If I were talking to myself, right, just to maybe to personalize it, and also, I don't want to encourage folks to be doing anything they shouldn't be doing because these are such personal, intricate matters. If I were having a conversation with my 18-year-old self, I would say, don't delay, don't delay. It's never going to be the right time. There's always
Hmm.
going to be something. There's going to be a girlfriend that doesn't want you to go. Well, bring her with you. I don't want to go with you. Go anyway. I know it sounds hard, right? Or, maybe there's a relative that's not doing well. I understand that. I understand that all too well, unfortunately. Uh, so there's that to consider. You could also still go to school. There's nothing saying you can't go to a nice overpriced university online and max out your student loans, scoop up the difference, and live in Mexico or live elsewhere in Latin America. Not that I'm advocating going into debt or playing the student loan game in the States or the UK, but I have certainly met such characters before that are living off of those refund checks, right? Where they get more in student aid than the cost of their tuition, and they're hitting that Santander Bank, man. I mean, I see it, I've seen it, and okay, look, you can do that too. You can do that too. There are lots of there. I know people that have blown up their credit. They're like, I'm never going back there. I'm going to max out my credit cards. I don't give a rip. What are they going to do? They're going to come after my fideicomiso? How? Again, that's not legal advice. That's a very personal situation there. I don't necessarily recommend doing that, but I don't necessarily condemn people that make those decisions either. Okay. But getting back to that proverbial 18-year-old, to do it right, stay away from debt, save the money, build up a little nest egg, do things the right way, get your affairs in order, but just come on down. Come on down, book a ticket, use a little bit of common sense, some street smarts. It does make sense to pick up a few words of Spanish. It really does. I know it's a pain in the tuchus. Nobody likes hearing that, but it is true. It does help. Google Translator does help. It's probably accurate at least 75% of the time. Uh, Even ChatGPT, same thing, accurate about 75% of the time. But obviously, folks on the ground are going to not only know, they're going to know for darn sure because people don't speak that way among themselves. But it is going to get you pretty far. It is going to get you pretty far. I would also say there's no shame in staying in expat bubbles initially, if that's your thing, if you want to feel comfortable, if you want those bumper lanes
Hmm.
that I was mentioning before. That's totally cool. You're going to have a great social life if that's what you want. It's hard not to be social. I have met people that were the most introverted people up in Canada, and they turn into total extroverts out in Mexico. I kid you not. Guys that had no friends, could not find a romantic interest. I know this sounds sort of typical and cliche, and this is almost overhyping things. But it's just the reason I say that is because it's true and
Hmm.
because it's just so easy. You just say hi to people. Unfortunately, some of the cities in Mexico are getting a little bit overrun by tourists and foreigners. So there's not as much of that. But I mean, back in
Hmm.
2017, 18, 19, if you didn't say, buenos dias, buenos tardes to someone on the street, I mean, that's like insulting. I mean, I would never walk by someone and not tip my hat or say that to someone. It was almost unheard of. So yeah, of course you're going to meet people, and they're gonna we want people also want to help each other. That's the other thing too. There's not this crazy paranoia. There are a lot of folks, both local and foreign, that are going to want to help you get adjusted, that are going to take pride in that. Some might steer you into some wrong, goofy directions. You can't suspend common sense. But a lot of people are just genuinely good. They don't have an agenda. They're not trying to sell you anything. And even if they are, big deal. It might be something you could use. It's not a big thing. I would just say to do it. Just do it. Just book a ticket. Live within your means and see if you like it. If you don't like it, there are lots of other places to check out. And if you don't like anything, well, that's a whole other story. But at least you tried. At least you gave it a go. You don't want to be waking up so late in life thinking, "Oh man, I really should have hit this place or that place." You don't want to have that kind of regret potentially. Um, and look, and I also understand this lifestyle is not for everyone. I know a lot of folks, they don't cut it. They don't cut it. They move back. They miss their what they think is their family. They miss certain things. They, even though you can pretty much get whatever you want. I mean, there's Costco here. They
Hmm.
have lots of stuff that you could find. They have good locks, really good locks, oddly enough, for those that like lox and bagels. Um, but I mean, look at, you know, it's just, I don't know. Just one of the things that drives me nuts is this, right? With the Merida Freedom Group, it's not the people there, but you get all these DMs. You probably get more than probably 10 times, 20 times as many as I do. Uh, and one of the things that happens to me is I get people that DM me for months. I'm coming down. I'm coming down. This time for real. I'm really coming down. And then at the last minute, they ask me, "So, where can I find the organic pet food?" And I'm thinking to myself, what? That's it? That's what this all boils down to? Is organic pet food? Really? Come on. Come on. And this is why I understand why fixers or facilitators charge money. Gotta charge money. I mean, I don't. I just help people that are friends or that I think are going to be cool or going to join the
Hmm.
Merit of Freedom group. That's one thing. But I understand why folks charge, because sometimes you become a bit of a guidance counselor or a psychologist, and it's a life coach, and it's a lot of work to micromanage another person's life until they get what they want, whether it's a residence permit, a closing on a property, a relocation, whatever it may be. But it's just stuff like that just totally drives me nuts. And it eats up a lot of time. And it's just, I understand we all have our own idiosyncrasies. I get all of that. But man, sometimes you just got to have a hell or high water moment and just say, okay, that's it. I'm coming no matter what, even if it's not perfect, even if I pay too much for that taxi ride to go from the airport to my Airbnb or my whatever it is.
Hmm.
That's okay. Just do it. Just do it. You're probably not going to regret it. And if you do, oh well. Then at least you'll know what you don't like.
Definitely. I
So
wanted to
yeah,
ask you about a couple of things about some of these groups and network states and startup cities that you're most excited about.
sure.
And by the way, I noticed that you listed our group, the My Latin Life LatAm Enthusiast Group, on your website. So thank you for that. I never asked you to do that, so that's pretty
Yeah.
cool. And everyone, there's a link in the show notes to this conversation. You can join the free LatAm Enthusiast Group. Has well over 2,000 people in there. But there's a couple I'm not as familiar with. What is Atlas Island?
Right. So Atlas Island is a doctor from Canada by the name of Mason who's behind this. And his idea is to have different people that have different yachts with different flags, right? Liberia, Panama, Bahamas, what have you, that congregate at a marina, a free port, and that just they live on their yachts, they move around.
Oh,
It's
really?
taking a bit of this sovereignty idea, a bit of this network state idea, but on the high seas, and that's largely the idea behind it. It's not so much building a more permanent, stationary community on the water as it is more of a mobile community. I love Mason. Mason is one of the real bright luminaries in my mind. He also is a big proponent of the Prospera Special Economic Zone on the Honduran island of Roatan. Mason is a terrific person. He would make a great guest. He would make a
Yeah,
phenomenal
I'm
guest.
really
I believe he
interested
was.
in boating and yachting and stuff like that. So
Oh, he's awesome.
what do they
He
do?
has,
They live on their boats and they
yeah,
like
that's what he's trying to do.
hit up all the different
Yep.
economic zones and like live with sovereignty and this kind of thing.
You got it. That's exactly what he's trying to map out, old Mason. Yeah, I think he went to what was it, yachting school recently in Portugal. He's become a resident
Hmm.
of Honduras, so certainly he's an all in kind of guy. He is an all in person. He's not one of these guys that just dips his toes in the water. He goes all in, and I love a lot of clear thinking. Atlasisland.org is his homepage. Yeah, you know what it is. I support people unilaterally. That's the way I do things. I don't worry about reciprocity. If it happens, that's great. I don't go out there asking folks for stuff. It's just I don't. It's not necessary. I'm able to do what I do out of my own pocket, thank God. So there's that. But I also think it's a good thing too when folks do have a livelihood. They have subscription services. They do things. Mason's in a category similar to me. He's able to self finance. He's one of those gentleman that is able to do that, although I believe he does have a situation where he is in some kind of a negotiation with a country. I don't know that any of the details. He hasn't shared it with me, but I think he's getting close to a deal of his own. And of course, that will necessitate some
Okay.
investors, folks that can afford to invest money they can afford to lose.
All right.
Um,
Let me run through
so
some of these like real quick.
yeah, sure. Go right ahead. Go right ahead.
I
Pardon me.
joined the Atlas group, so we'll see what happens with that. That's cool.
Cool.
Catawba.
Right. So that's a Native American nation southeast of the United States between North Carolina and South Carolina.
Oh, it's like
Uh,
an indigenous land thing.
Right, right. This is a real Native American nation. They are recognized by the United States federal government by treaty. And what happened was a gentleman by the name of Joe McKinney, who I'm friends with online. He's been involved with the startup societies and things of that nature. He received a contract from this Native American nation to develop a digital economic zone. So they have LLCs. They're going to be chartering banks. It's totally legal. They've passed many different state, local, and federal checks to be able to do this. So what's happening is, yeah, you can register your own limited liability company with the Catawba Digital Economic Zone. He would be an amazing guest also, Joe McKinney. Joe McKinney is
Very
going to be
cool.
going down to Prospera in Honduras, I believe, at the beginning of next month. But he's a very accessible, approachable person. He has lots of big banking interest in the United States that are going to be chartering banks through the Catawba Digital Economic Zone. That is something that is happening. They are crypto friendly, they are Web 3.0 friendly, Bitcoin friendly. They See, the idea is this: so many of these Native American tribes are well known for the casinos and selling cigarettes and alcohol. Well,
Mm,
Joe had an even better idea. He's like, hey, why don't you do the most American thing ever and just get involved with the business of business? Isn't that just genius? Give Delaware a run for its money. Why is everyone
mm,
registering in Delaware or Wyoming or Nevada or what have New Mexico sometimes?
right.
So Joe said, "Wait a minute." To this tribe, you guys have sovereignty. You're a recognized tribe. You have the right to do this, and so they did. That's Catawba. Yeah,
Wow.
100%,
I definitely
hundred
got to get
percent.
that guy on. This episode of the My Latin Life podcast is brought to you in part by Bit Refill. Bit Refill is the best way to spend your crypto in Latin America. Purchase gift cards or mobile refills from more than 3,500 brands in 186 countries instantly, safely, and privately. Visit bitrefill.com for more information. Just a couple other ones I'm not familiar with. What is Otoko?
Yeah, I don't really know a lot about it. That's a guy named Hans and a guy named Tyler. What they do is they have a mechanism on their website where I think you load your MetaMask and you're able to register corporations through that. Uh,
Mm,
right, like Wyoming lets you do series LLCs, and I think Delaware does. And so what happens is you get like a cell, CELL, a cell in the series for a small fee. And basically, it's an online, almost instant company formation or automated company formation
mm.
type thing. A taco, yeah, really interesting. I think Vitalik is in that group. Vitalik
Oh
Buterin,
yeah.
the founder of Ethereum, he's in that. Uh, of course, he's in Thibaut Serlet's group, obviously, as one would imagine. Vitalik is a big fan of special economic zones and charter cities. It's public knowledge that he
Uh-huh.
donated to the Charter Cities Institute, Vitalik Buterin. So
Have you
he's
ever met him?
certainly very much into these things. But yeah, that's Otako. I don't know a heck of a lot about him, but they've always been nice to me. So as a courtesy, of course, I'm going to list them.
Right.
You know,
Yeah, have you met Vitalik?
Not in person. Not in person. No, I've only exchanged notes with him, but I've never met him in person. I probably could. He is certainly somebody that is very in tune with much of what I've been up to, for sure. Yeah, when the time is right, when I have something perhaps a bit more presentable and polished,
Hmm.
there'll be more of a reason to do that other than just to say hi and to
For
exchange a
sure.
couple of little anecdotes.
Why do you have the Montenegro group
Oh,
listed?
right. So that's Montelibro. So right, there was the Free State Project in New Hampshire, a situation where a lot of libertarians were moving to the state of New Hampshire in the northeast of the United States, trying
Right.
to influence
The Free
the
State.
politics there. So this other group, Montelibro, is trying to do just that, but in the country of Montenegro in southeast Europe. So there's a gentleman that I'm familiar with named Anton, who is not a native English speaker. It might be a little bit challenging to have him on the show. I've tried calling him. He's like, "No, man, I just use Chat GPT and Translator." But basically, it's a bunch of Russian guys that didn't want to. that didn't really want to deal with Putin, a lot of guys that didn't want to be drafted to do the
Hmm.
special military operation in Donbass, that said, hey, you know what? We're anti war, we're pro free market. Let's head out to Montenegro. Somehow they were able to do so, and they have been trying to build their community in Montenegro. It's kind of interesting, too, because speaking of Vitalik, he had his pop up city, Zuzalu, over there in Montenegro, but he never hooked up with that group. It's strange because Vitalik is of Russian origin. I think he was born outside of Moscow. Sometimes
Hmm.
folks just, for whatever reason, right, it just doesn't click. It doesn't mesh. I don't know why,
Hmm.
but yeah, sure, a lot of fun stuff. They're pro. They're very pro free market. Um, they had a hard time during the pandemic, scamdemic, whatever it was. It was a little bit more masky there than it was in Mexico. But yeah, that's the Montenegro group. That's not my group. I'm just supportive of what they're doing. They seem to be legitimate people. So that's
Hmm.
really what that boils down to.
Okay.
Yeah.
One last one here.
Sure.
Tilata.
Right. So that's a gentleman. There's another Russian. I don't know. All these Russians love me for some crazy reason. I don't know what it is. I have like more Russian friends than I probably should. I don't know what that's about. It's just, I mean, I don't understand that. That's a gentleman by the name of Andrei Voronkov. He set up Talata. Talata is a bit of the successor to uh, something that was called Your Justice, which was a successor to something that was called BitNation. Basically, what they're trying to do is create a sort of operating system for governance, for governments, for network states. Think
Hmm.
of it sort of like a Linux operating system that will have a preloaded suite of different services, different government services that people can access. Talata is interesting. They're interesting. It's basically Andre and a few other people. A lot of those folks now find themselves in Country Founders, which is a substantially more active group at this stage, although Talata certainly has been around substantially longer. And I think they have a few more people than Country Founders. And they're totally two separate things. One is a discussion group. Talata is more of a business enterprise. So that's Talat. His level of English is pretty decent. Andrei Voronkov. I don't know if he's really traveled much to Latin America. I know he's lived in Dubai and he's lived in Norway before. I've never met him in person. I've only spoken with him a small handful of times. He wanted me to be an advisor to their group. I have not accepted that position. A lot of people, for some reason, want me to be an advisor. You know what I usually end up telling them, because I'm running a little bit low on time. I don't mean to be rude.
Yeah, Sam. I
Um,
only got like 9 more minutes.
oh yeah, sorry, and I've been filibustering. I
No, it's all
apologize for
good.
that. Yeah, here's what it is. In some ways, I'm a lot more effective not officially being on someone's team, right? Not being officially uh, on the team for Palau and RNS, not officially being involved with Catawba, not officially, because then I can say things that I might not be able to say if I were on their team. So
Mm,
there's a strategic advantage to not being on
makes
someone's
sense.
team page and having my bio and my headshot and all of that
So
jazz.
let me
At
let me
some
let me
point,
ask you this one like
yeah, sure.
last question as we get to wrapping up. And hey, by the way, when we do wrap up and say bye, keep the window open for a second as it uploads the audio.
Okay.
Um, but my last question would be like, so there's all these initiatives and it's very volunteer driven. How could
Yes.
someone like make money on this? I saw a comment you put in the founders group talking about Francisco Litvai, and he does a lot of things to like help the community, and he knows a lot of things. You know a lot of things, but it's like, how can we like actually get some? How can we make some money out of our knowledge and our contributions? Like, what do you think are some of the ways where people can actually get paid, and then that way you'd have more people involved if there was a way we can actually make some money?
This is the question. In fact, this is the very question that a young woman, and she won't mind that I'm mentioning her, Janina, the blockchain girl, the original blockchain girl. I know there is a blockchain girl, and that's Janina. She's a girl originally from Poland. She's lived in Malta. She's lived in Dubai, many places.
Hmm.
Extraordinarily talented individual. And that's something that she has imparted in me. In fact, that is one of the motivations for Country Founders. And she said, Andy, so many of these businesses and projects are great, but at the end of the day, what good is any of it if you can't keep the lights on? You can't pay your rent. Your refrigerator is empty. It's 100% right, Vance. 100% right. And so that's why in the Country Founders Group, there is a jobs board, there is a funding board for those that are trying to raise money. But more to your point, and I know that's, again, I've been all over the map. Uh, it's that there are certain things that can be done. For example, there are people like Francisco that do the consulting work. That's one option. Uh, that another option is there are those that help facilitate raising money, commission sales people. Not exactly a fun, sexy job. In some jurisdictions, you need to be licensed to do that. In other jurisdictions, you better not be a commission salesman uh, for trying to help folks to raise money. In other places, you're free to wheel and deal. So you got to really know what you're doing on that one.
Hmm.
One of the big things when it comes to network states that I'm seeing is the sale of citizenship. I'm using the term very loosely. Membership sites, right?
Hmm.
The sale of the right to participate, so participatory rights. I'll give you a great example. And look, however I feel about them is a whole other story that would probably take up several different episodes. Lieberland, right? The
Hmm.
purported country between
Selling the passports and
Serbia and
stuff.
Croatia. They sell passports. They sell passports. One gentleman was telling me they're now getting something like $10,000 a passport. That's a very big price for a country that has not been recognized, that by some standards is not at all a country. Uh, Anybody is free to claim Gorne Signa. The dirty secret of Lieberland is anybody can claim that area because it's unowned. The trick is, can you hold it? Can you possess it? Are you able to somehow erect some sort of legal title to it? That's something that thus far nobody has been able to do. Yet Lieberland, and I'm not saying that they're doing anything wrong, okay, but they are charging people thousands of dollars to obtain a passport. That's not something that I would necessarily do in their particular shoes, but I'm not against the selling of membership. I'm not against selling a call option on citizenship, right? There's a lot of speculation that Javier Milei of Argentina may recognize Lieberland because there is a non binding memorandum of understanding between Lieberland and his political party that got entered into
Nice.
before Javier Milei was inaugurated. So there's a lot of, and he does know that they exist. I'm not so sure that he's going to recognize them, but if he were to do so, that would move Lieberland from being, let's say, a micronation to being more of a state with limited recognition, which would give their passport some potential value. It becomes a bit of a travel document if you could use a Lieberland passport to fly to Argentina. But still, I've seen no evidence that Milei has offered to accept the credentials of Lieberland ambassadors to Argentina. So all all to be seen. So about monetization, right? So we have membership, the sale of membership. We have media, what we're doing here. So media, membership, subscription services, consulting work, uh, those are some of the immediate things that can be done as
Hmm.
far as trying to make some money. But that is one of the reasons why I set up Country Founders is not just to explore all this fun, wild sovereignty stuff, but it's also okay. So there's all these folks that are into doing this stuff. How do we all get paid, right? Not all of us can self finance. I can self finance. Mason can self finance. Some people can self finance. But at a certain point, you got to do better than self-financing. Even if you can self-finance, it doesn't really matter unless something is self-sustaining. It's a hobby, right?
Mhm.
And that's the thing. And I don't want to think of this as a hobby. It's not. I'm not a hobbyist. I'm not into considering this a hobby. This is an industry. This is a business. This is something that occupies a great deal of my day and a great deal of my thinking. So that is one of the reasons why the Country Founders Group does exist, is to explore the subject of monetization beyond just, well, let's raise a bunch of money so we can use that to raise even more money. Because that's quite frankly balderdash. That's Charles Ponzi. That's not cool. Okay. Uh,
Fair enough.
so one of the
Well,
other
definitely
things that,
some good ideas there. We
yeah,
gotta cut.
okay,
I do have
yes,
to jump, but definitely some good ideas there that I'll follow up with you with
yeah, anytime,
offline. Now we're definitely in contact, Mister Andy
certainly.
J. Starr of Merida Freedom fame. Do you have any final shout out, call to action for the audience that you would like to share?
Just, you know what, a major thanks to you, a major thanks to everybody that follows your work, Vance, on Twitter, on Telegram, and on all the different sites. What you're doing is amazing. We need much more Vance in this world. That's 100%. A shout out to everybody in all of the groups that I own and administer. So that'd be Country Founders, that would be the Merida Freedom Group, that would be the Palau Digital Residency Group. Every single one of you, you guys are amazing. It's all about spreading the word. It's all about cross promotion. Um, the moment someone sends me a message and they're doing something and it looks legit, I put their link up on a page. I pin what they're doing to a Telegram group, to a Twitter, whatever it is. That's what it's really about. But ultimately, it's about monetization, and that's where this has to go, right? Especially for those of us that call themselves capitalists. Got to be capitalists. Can't just talk
Mhm.
about it. Got to be it. Got to be it. But I really appreciate it, Vance. It's been a great pleasure. Thank you, and I look forward to continuing this. This doesn't end. This doesn't end when we go off the air.
For sure, man. Well, this has been another episode of the My Latin Life podcast. Again, my guest today, Andy J. Starr. Thanks to the audience for listening. Thanks to Andy for joining us.